Hey everyone, originally I was planning to release this video when Lutonada comes out on EN, but no matter how hard I simp for the rat, my laziness is still greater. Since I also play on CN, I've spent quite some time exploring what Lutonada is good at, and had chosen one clear in particular to show off Lutonada at her best. Why just one clear in particular? Well, Lutonada is kind of the opposite of Quartz. While Quartz spontaneously combusts at the mere whiff of a basic enemy, but can thrive under extreme conditions, Lutonada is essentially unkillable by trash, but by her nature of being a generalist, struggles on harder stages. As a result, all of her records are on relatively easy stages, all of her records except one. CWS4, one of the harder stages in Arknights, was recently beaten with only 6 4 stars. This is something that was only achieved thanks to Lutonada. Normally I just show the run itself, but I wanted to try another kind of video for a while, and Lutonada's coolest records is a great place for it. Instead of just showing you the completed strategy, I want to explain all the work that went into the run, so you can see for yourself how a DP problem was resolved by using the most expensive 4 star in the game. I'll attempt to break down the map, the options 4 stars have, previous strategies, and try to explain why exactly Lutonada was the only option that worked for this. Let's start with the map. It can roughly be split into 3 different threads. First, the 2 ranged robots in the middle. They are some of the tankiest enemies in the game, and with a range of 5 tiles can attack almost the entire map. They hit hard, multi-target and kill most operators in a few hits. While there are a few operators that could kill them on their own, there are no 4 stars that could manage it. The one that comes closest is Utage, but if you allow both robots to attack her, she dies in a couple attacks. The optimal move seems simple here. Have Utage fight one robot while throwing bodies at the other one. The second threat is the boss herself. While Kristen is relatively easy to kill, dealing with the 2 robots consumes far too much DP. And with enemies coming from 2 different lanes, the only realistic option becomes to stun her. Since Kristen's damage is so low, Gummy cannot heal without a medic. Once every 30 seconds, she will walk the farthest bow from her, and the bow will start doing AoE damage around it, increase Kristen's block requirement by 1, and give her 30% damage reduction. The extra block is the most important bit. If Kristen walks more than 2 bows, Gummy will not be able to block her, so at least one operator is permanently stuck cleaning Kristen's bows. Click has the highest consistent arts DPS, so she gets the job. Sorry, Click. Even though Kristen is very simple to deal with, she does occupy 2 of my operator slots. With the ranged threats and the boss addressed, that just leaves the melee enemies. Part of the reason this is such a hard map is that there are only 3 basic enemies on the entire map. These 3 assholes right here, who rush you right after you've wasted all of your DP killing the robots. Apart from them, everything else in the first phase is either a Jedi or a melee robot. 1 Jedi on the left side and 3 Jedis on the right. Since they take damage from being shifted, it intuitively makes sense to use a pusher like Shaw on the right side to kill most of the Jedi. It makes sense on paper, but this is a strategic error. I'll unpack why exactly in a bit. As for the single Jedi, they can get 1v1'd by Jaya, for example. That just leaves the robots. On the left side they get killed by Indigo, Click and Deep Cover, while on the right they get stalled forever by Ethan and Shaw. Stalling half the enemies is a bit of a theme on this map, so that's how I used 8 4 stars to clear this map originally. What a mess, I definitely didn't put enough thought into this. The second phase is not worth discussing now since 8 operators smash it easily, but I do want to highlight one moment. There is one ranged robot that heads towards the center, and due to all my stalling, Kristen is AFKing in the center protecting the robot. I don't have a medic, so tanking both the robot and Kristen is non-viable. Therefore I used Shaw to shift it over to the other end of the map, where I could kill the robot safely. It's cute, but I found a better way to do this later on. At this point I thought 8 operators was the limit and didn't touch the map again for almost 8 months. A couple of months ago Tums mentioned I never bothered to play the challenge mode of CWS4. So I decided to get off my lazy ass and finally go and do it. To remind myself of what this stage was, I watched my old run and instantly noticed a huge error in how Sha was used. She was on the right because that's where the most Jedi are, but then we end up with Jaya, Deep Cover and Indigo being needed on the left. While they are very strong, there's only a few enemies on the left side, so few that Shaw can completely sew the left side with 0 help. which then frees up everyone else to help the right side. So the only thing I needed to lower the operator count is find a new way to start the map. And now we get to the Utage section. Utage is a seemingly simple operator. You deploy her, she hits stuff, then you retreat her after the skill ends. In practice she is far more complicated because of how her skill works. When she is deployed, her skill doesn't activate instantly. And if she blocks an enemy, Utage can be damaged before her skill activates. Her skill 2 takes 50% of her current health, not her max health, meaning if she is hit first and then the skill activates, she will have more health than the opposite. Usually when fighting enemies that can kill Utage in a few hits, you want to abuse this to let her do more damage. And this is true for the challenge mode version of this map, and also is true in almost every circumstance in the normal version. I had assumed Utage could not 1v1 the ranged robots no matter what. At best, when deployed on top of the robot, so that she gets hit before the skill, she left them a few hits from death, so few that even a deep cover tentacle could finish the job. This also required that Utage wasn't hit by anything else. At the time I never tested the alternative, making Utage get hit after the skill to maximize her ASPD. To do this I baited a ranged attack and then deployed. The delay from the animation let her skill activate before the melee attack hit. The extra ASPD is enough and Utage manages to kill the robot just before the punch kills her. However, if Utage took even a single hit from the other robot, she would die. So what I needed to do was 1. Deploy another operator before Utage, 2. Deploy Utage during the ranged attack animation, and 3. Prevent Utage from being hit by any ranged attacks. The simplest way to do this is to block the other robot. If I pulled it out of range with rope, for example, I'd have to deal with its damage and figure out how to kill it later. Instead, I found a bit of extra value from Gummy, who needs to be deployed very early anyway. I paired her with Moose's attack debuff, and with both Moose and Utage blocking ranged attacks, the robots were cleaned up with little effort. Moose herself is an extremely awkward operator for this map and she struggled to contribute much later into the map. But with Shaw soloing the left side, it meant we could devote almost our entire squad to crushing the enemies on the right. With the enemies cleared up, the only thing left was the boss and the second phase, which is the easiest part of the stage. At the time I thought this was as low as I could take this map. How could I possibly remove an operator? Gummy and Shaw take care of two major threats, so they can't be removed. Click is needed to control Kristen's bows, and Ethan plus Indigo are needed to crush the right side. I couldn't imagine a more efficient way to open than Moose plus Utage. Even so, this comment haunted me. I couldn't think of a way to move forward, I gave up on it and went to play the challenge mode. Since the enemies had higher stats, a lot of my strategies from the normal mode didn't work. I needed some new ideas here. Here is the big one that is relevant to the normal mode. Look at the two ranged robots. They look exactly the same, right? Wrong, they're not the same. The left one has a major weakness that the right one doesn't. See for yourselves. Did you see it? The right one spawns in the center of the tile. The left one has to walk to it. This means that the left one isn't perfectly centered and can be pushed down by an operator. In the challenge mode version, this lets Utage and Moose 2v1 the robot, which ultimately led me to beating it with 7 operators. Despite the higher stat, it's still the same number of operators. So there should be a little more space to push in the normal mode then. I went back to it about a month later, now armed with the lefty's weakness, and thought what I could possibly do to lower the record. The robots in the center feel so oppressive. They have what feels like global range and prevent you from deploying anything until you deal with them. It just feels like global range though. In practice it's 5 tiles. If we push the lefty down at Shaw, that would stop him from covering several critical tiles we could use for Shaw, Click and Ethan, meaning we could simply ignore him until much later into the run. If you are wondering if that can be done with the right robot, he can be pushed this way. Since he is perfectly centered, if a pusher is deployed on top of the robot, he can't be moved in any direction. That's why the left robot walking at the start is so critical. One small problem, Shaw dies in 2 melee hits and the second hit happens before she can use her skill. Same trick we used with Utage works here, bait a ranged attack, then deploy Shaw. Great, but this means both Shaw and Utage cannot be deployed first. We need a third operator to bait. Ah, finally we are approaching the glorious Edgelord Rat.
It's nice, clean and quiet here. Just like the inside of a coffin.
My first idea was to just deploy Gummy as bait, but it's not enough. Sho does her job and retreats just fine, but Utage doesn't kill the right one fast enough. Takes a missile hit and dies. Okay, so Indigo takes 3 missile hits to die, so we could float say 58 DP, deploy Indigo, Utage, Sho all at once. Now Shao can push and Utage can... Wait, how did I do this shit before? Okay, I remembered. We need to deploy Utage faster, so she has more time to DPS. So deploy Indigo, deploy Utage a couple of frames before the ranged attack starts, so the right one punches Utage, but the left one only shoots at Indigo. There, that works. Finally, we now have a way to play with 6 operators. Once we have Ethan, Click and Gummy set up, we're all set. Wait, wasn't this video about Lutonada? You see there's a small problem with this strategy. Indigo costs 21 DP, Utage costs 22 DP, Sho costs 17 DP, a total of 60 DP. Since we absolutely need to deploy Utage before Sho for this to work, the earliest we could drop Sho is 60 seconds into the map. With an SP cost of 5, by the time we can retreat Sho, even if we do it perfectly using pause, it's already too late. The Jedi steps too deep into Sho's tile, gets pushed into the wall, and kills Sho's before her skill can charge back up. If any one of those operators cost 1 less DP, this would have been a valid strategy. But it's okay, we just need an operator to replace Indigo. An operator that costs less than 21 DP, has strong enough arts damage and crowd control to clear all waves on the right side, after helping Utage kill the robot. Looking through our operator pool and oh, that operator doesn't exist. Click can help Utage kill the robot, and is cheap enough to redeploy Sho in time, but she is stuck on bow control and nobody can replace her there. On top of that, she can't kill all the enemies on the right. Great single target isn't enough, we need crowd control or AoE. No 4-star can do both of those under 22 DP. So much for this strategy. Back to the drawing board. For the assisted Utage kill idea to work, we need to deploy Sho before Utage, so we can redeploy Sho quicker. But none of my operators can take the hit long enough to allow that. Well, there is one operator I haven't tried yet. I need a cheaper operator that can help Utage kill the robot and has good AoE art damage plus crowd control to clean up the right. So why not try the most expensive 4-star in the game at a thick, saucy 32 DP? That's right, we're finally at the Lutonada part of the video. I have to confess my sin here. I didn't believe in the Great Rat when I tried this. I mostly did it on a whim because I'm a huge Lutonada simp. Surely the high DP cost will cause problems, or we will lack damage to kill, and even if we don't, we'll definitely fail on the right side after, but being a simp I tried anyway. Unlike my casters, the ranged attack meant nothing to Lutonada, so we could calmly deploy her early and let Wutu charge up her skill. We use it and... Oops. We wait for the Saitama boat to walk away and then use her skill. For a 4-star it's an insanely versatile skill. Increases Lutonada's defense, does arts damage around her and pulls every enemy towards her with the weakest possible force. Across its duration it pulls 15 times and does almost 12,000 damage. If it had one more force she would be a top tier 4-star, but even so she's far from useless. Damage wise that's a bit more than half of what Gitano would do, and Lutonada has a much better SP cycle. Because of the event mechanic in Lone Trail, all enemies are 0-8. So Wutu just pulls the robot over to her. This means Utage can't use the ASP debuff from facing down, but thanks to Wutu it's just enough damage to kill. We barely get away with this and have enough DP to deploy Ethan, Click and Gummy. Because the left robot was pushed down, he can only hit Gummy, who's too well fed to give a shit about rockets. Utage can then clean up the second robot before he gets any ideas. But how is Lutonada supposed to win on the right? She can pull and DPS, yes, but the enemies are way too strong, and once she blocks the robots they will simply kill her. On any other event this is exactly how it would go, but not in Lone Trail. You know those fenced off tiles some maps have? They imply that enemies can't move into them, so they're like a ranged tile for your melee operator. Yeah, those are complete scams. You can push enemies into them, block enemies into them. Really, they just don't path over them, but there's nothing stopping the enemies from entering them. However, Lone Trail is an awesome event, and unlike almost every other stage in Arknights, it actually has working fence tiles. If you drop a puller on them, they can't pull enemies into them, no matter how hard they try. This was probably implemented for your ranged operators to use, So we are going to deploy our most expensive and tankiest operator on the tile and pull. Ethan binds, Lutonada pulls. Ethan's Q2 is 25 SP with a 30-second duration. Lutonada's Q2 is 35 SP with a 30-second duration, so between the two of them we only have 5 seconds of downtime. With Lutonada being protected by the fence, she can pull again and again and again until they all drop dead. Pull, bind, Utage. It's so efficient once Lutonada is deployed, it's all over for those enemies. Instead, the biggest point of RNG is right before that. The 3 defenders on the right aren't particularly strong, but they come before Lutonada is redeployed, and Ethan can't kill them all on his own. We will stop simping for Lutonada for just a bit to show a cute trick from her fellow rat Click. Click was deployed facing left so she can be outside of the lefty's robot attack range. With her not getting the ASP debuff, she is exactly one attack short of breaking the bow before Kristen makes another one. If we use her skill 1, it cycles perfectly, so we can stop the bows from spreading. Knowing these two things, we can gain even more value from Click. If we simply choose not to use her skill when the defenders come, Kristen will walk a different bow farther away. Since Click has no bow to attack, she can drop her DPS on the defenders Ethan is stalling, greatly reducing the RNG on the map. Good rat. With all the enemies in the first phase taken care of, we can start our preparation for the second phase. We use our other DPS operators to redeploy Click for more DPS, while Gummy makes stakes with Kristen. Lutonada commits friendly fire, and we move over this bow a little to create space for later. Now we can enter the second phase. After Kristen dies in like 10 minutes, Lutonada gets to be deployed early because the missiles do little damage to her, saving us a ton of DP for later. Ethan and Gummy stall the robot a bit, while Click works on killing one of the bows. Once the bow explodes, we use Shaw to push the rocket dude in the small arena we made on the right. There, away from the boss, Utage can quickly 1v1 the robot. The rest of the map is a couple Jedi and a bunch of rocket cars. Circle around the map and do massive damage when they run over operators. Lutonada's skill quickly pokes them all and kills them all with her fellow rat. You might think Click is on the up tile for some big brain play, and it's actually really helpful later since it makes Kristen's path a lot longer, but honestly the only reason I put her on it is because it's a safe tile that Kristen can't attack from the first whoop. Anyhow, back to simping. Since Lutonada heals when enemy is blocked by her die, she can tank all the rocket cars by herself, and because our rat duo removes all of the cars, our other damage operators can move around the map, softening up Kristen's bows. Once Lutonada is done with the rocket cars, we retreat her and use the same tile for Ethan. From there he can finish off Kristen's bow, stall Kristen, and delay the 2 Saitama bots until Luto gets cozy on her range tile. With every other enemy taken care of, it's just a matter of lowering Kristen's block count to at least 3 by breaking her bows. Kristen's massive hairy bows also give damage reduction, but Gummy can stall forever, so it's irrelevant. Lutonada and Gummy sacrifice their lives to tank for Ethan until he kills her bows. 4 more bows to go. Utage and Click each take care of 1, while every other operator is sacrificed to stall Kristen, and all that's left is for Gummy to redeploy. Thanks to the rightmost bows being moved around, Kristen's path is much longer than usual, and Gummy is back with time to spare. If we give her an hour, Gummy would win on her own, but in the interest of my electric bill, Utage and Click give her a hand. Thanks for watching so far. That was, in my opinion, one of Lutonada's best moments, and I wanted to do something more than just post the run with some Ace Combat music. Mind you, I have nothing against Lutonada runs with some Ace Combat music, and the rest of the video is exactly that. One last thing before I go, could you leave your opinion on this style of videos compared to my usual in the comments? Personally, I think explaining the work that went into the run makes for a much better video, but I'm also incredibly lazy, so I will only bother doing more if you want to see more. Thanks in advance, and I'll leave you with the full rat run.